My name is Heikki Hämäläinen, and I come from the company called Code, and I'm going to talk a little bit about maybe not so typical topic in the AI event, but how AI and DevOps pipeline, or how AI and DevOps actually are working together. How these two actually very important parts of the digitalizations are working together. Just a few words about the Code. So there might be someone of you who haven't heard about us before. So we are around 340 people, originally from the Finland, nowadays working actually in the 11 countries across the Europe, so Nordics and the Central Europe. We have offices in Germany as well, and we are really specialized in one mission and one mission only, and that is to build the best software-driven organizations in the world. And the DevOps is the area where we are very well known in our turf. So that's what we do. And there are some industry recognitions. So Atlassian, we are probably was very familiar to many of you. So they have, for example, recognized us to be the DevOps Partner of the Year globally a couple of times in a row, and you can find us in a Gartner Hype Cycle as well. But I'm not going to so much talk about sales and marketing Jumbo today, but actually talk about one of the AI projects what we have been doing during last couple of years. So why I'm actually talking today is that there are three main angles how you can think about that machine learning or AI and the DevOps are, you could say, going to be more and more important to each other, or in some way actually you could even say consolidating in the future. So one of the angle is that what we have been doing is that how to implement different forms of machine learning / AI inside the DevOps value stream. So that's one really interesting angle in this very narrow topic what I'm going to talk about. The other angle is that how can we actually help data teams? So how the DevOps as a framework, as a working methodologies, as like tools and technologies, like for example version controlling or test automation can help the data teams, which is nowadays more or less talk about the concept called data ops. And the third angle, which is more like a futuristic angle, is that which could be that how these different pipelines, like data pipelines or code pipelines and actually design pipelines will probably form a concept called digital ops in the future. But today I'm mainly concentrating on the first angle. So how can we are implementing some forms of the machine learning inside of the DevOps core DevOps value stream. And what is the DevOps actually? Just a few words. So classically you can say that DevOps is like how can dev teams and operation teams work really closely together, and actually how this operation can create value to our customers' software assets and the business as much as possible. But you can also actually slice and dice the whole DevOps cycle in many ways, and this is one of the ways how the Gartner is actually doing it. So how can, from the planning a software asset to creating a software asset to verifying the software asset to putting into pre-production to release it in the production and so forth. So how these two cycles work together like infinite loop all the time. So that and how can you use machine learning or AI in a different slices of the full DevOps pipe cycle? That is what we were actually starting to take a look at more seriously in our thinking about this. And what does this actually mean? So a couple of years ago, when we started to think about this, is that like I said, that how can we slice and dice the DevOps cycle and think about how can we actually apply certain principles or certain technologies from the machine learning AI in a different parts of the DevOps cycle. Have to say that there was actually a lot of skepticism in our core tech team. So is this actually useful? Is this something that actually will create value to our customers? And is this something that we can actually apply to our production environments? In the couple of years ago, so if, one of the things what I'm also quite often doing is to analyze the markets and seeing where for example, the venture funding is going. So there was quite a lot of venture funding going to the companies like Deep Blue or Testim, which are companies who are using different forms of AI in the area of testing, but not so many of the continuous integration or DevOps players in those days. So that was very clear that the testing area is something that where it seems that there is a lot of use cases for different forms of AI, whether it's machine learning or visual AI. Then we were actually brave enough also that we organize very often events in this area, and our flagship event is called DevOps 2018 at that point of time. So this year we organized obviously DevOps 2020, and it was like a plus 500 people conference, and we introduced actually AI as part of the program, and that was something I think we were the first one in the world in this size of the DevOps event who was brave enough to do so, and we actually we are talking all those elements which I previously said as angles. But then we started to think that okay, so what we should do in practice, and then we started to have a cooperation with the Finnish AI startup called Silo AI to dig a little bit deeper and understand the future possibilities. So now I'm talking about the project itself and the findings of that within the next few minutes. All right. So first, like I said, we needed to find a partner. So we chose to work with Silo AI because we knew that we couldn't do everything by ourselves. So we had a lot of knowledge in the DevOps. We have a lot of knowledge about DevOps tooling and the DevOps pipeline and so forth, but we couldn't do this without the partner. Then in this project, we needed to have a framework which actually works. So that's something that is useful and helps us to understand how the AI world itself is working and put it into place. So in a Silo AI, they have like this kind of 6-stage process for finding actual AI opportunities, and we decided that we will use this one to find the best use case. Because obviously we did understand that like the generic use cases are not good ones. We need to find a really narrow use case which we actually can produce something useful for our customers. So we decided to use Silo AI's 6-stage process to finding a real AI opportunities. With a lot of workshopping, so these are actually the use cases which we find it useful as part of the DevOps cycle. So there was like early warnings models. So which the understanding is that well, as everybody who has been working in the software industry for a long time knows that it's pretty hard to actually understand how the projects will go and what risks are happening if the projects are delaying. Then there were a couple of test-related use cases where what we were working, and some of the visualization layers what we were working at this moment of time, and some of the false positive negative identifications. So, for example, recognizing which test create a lot of false positive negatives in the testing part of software delivery lifecycle. Then after we have worked a lot, during multiple workshops and so forth. So actually, the use case which we saw that probably would have from our business would have like best value would be the early warnings model, and this is actually the original descriptions related to the early warnings model what the team did at that point of time. So with the clear business objective, understanding what the data we should collect from the different parts of the DevOps cycle, what kind of data preparation is needed, what kind of models is needed, and so forth. So this would be part of our root platform, which I will touch base in a minute. And this was actually same data after we did the workshops together with the Sila AI. So running a bit out of the time. So the idea was that this would be part of our own product, which is called the Epicode Root DevOps platform, which consists of 40 different tools and technologies to choose from. So I'll skip one slide further. So this is how our Epicode Root looks. So it's a combination of the quite a lot of different tools which is related to DevOps. So starting from the requirement and project management, using obviously the continuous integration and deployment tool, version control, code analysis, artifact scanning, and on top of that, analytics, which is where is our own analytics product called the Epicode Insights. And as part of the Epicode Insights is actually the outcome of this exercise, which I was talking about. So we decided to implement this Epicode early warnings mechanism, which is nowadays part of the Epicode Roots early releases. And I will show a little bit, maybe not good slide on that one, but I actually show some of the data points, what you can see from the weak signals over here in this working document. So these are kind of weak signals and early warnings, what the team was thinking at that time, and what is now actually implemented to Epicode root. So things like that, how often the build frequency is changing, and does that indicate any quality issues? Obviously, people are part of the project, but will that contribute to the problem? And on a second, knowledge silos, ticket returning back to dev from done state, and so forth. A certain number of tests are failing, percentage of that, so we can use good test or bad test detection and so forth. Sudden changes in a number of errors and so on. So so the data what we are collecting from the different parts of the pipeline, so it's actually quite complicated, and we can have a quite good and granular level understanding of the things what is happening in our process, and then find those use cases, find those data, and use that effectively to build really efficient early warnings mechanism as part of the Epicode root platform. And so this was like one example of the AI/machine learning project where you start to, let's say, start with the quite broad vision in a way that we need to take a look at how you can use AI machine learning in our case as part of the DevOps cycle or DevOps tooling. You slice and dice the problem in the use cases which might work, and then you start that your product and obviously choose the one which could create the most value to your end customers. I think my time is up, even though I don't see the time is up. So that was thank you. That was very correct. So thank you for the organizer.
Yeah, thank you, Heikki. Thanks for coming over and presenting. It was super interesting. We don't actually have much questions on the Slido yet. Let's just opening this up here. And so if people are having a question, please go to Slido and drop them there. What are typical, since you provide, let me just maybe ask one question from my side, right? So since you are kind of supporting lots of companies on projects, specifically in the machine learning world as well, right? So what are, from your perspective, like the typical things that, the typical challenges that they usually run into that you would maybe kind of consult on approaching differently? What's kind of key learnings that you can share that you've made as part of the project you've been doing in the past?
Yeah, well, obviously this was our own like R&D project. So what I was talking about, sharing, so there was a lot of, and sharing the like experiences on that. So from the customer side, so I think what we are typically doing is we are helping to our customers, especially the AI or data teams, to take the best use of the DevOps practices as part of their work or as part of their infrastructure. Like I said, so the version control or test automation and things like that. So a pretty common problem between the code teams and the data teams. And maybe the other one is that which I actually, when I was running our big data business many years ago, which I noticed is that, of course, the different practitioners are thinking the world a little bit differently, which practically means that the data people and the code people, it's the same thing like in a dev and ops. So we should be much more closer together actually to create the value to end customer in many ways.
True. There's a question from Maria Kayava. Nice to see machine learning applying to software development. Did you identify any strong signals? I'm not sure about the strong signals.
Yeah, I guess our work was sort of try to find the weakest or strongest signal from the data, which actually the DevOps value stream or DevOps tooling is collecting the different sources. So I'm not actually sure how to answer the question.
Yeah, so maybe Maria, maybe you join Heikki in one of the sessions, and then you can kind of discuss further. I'm also not super sure. And then there's a question from Fabian. Thanks for that. Can you highlight the services or APIs that were consumed within the data science lifecycle, for example, by data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, etc.?
Yeah, so the data sources, what we, for example, used was data from the different Atlassian tools. So Jira was one of the data sources, and obviously using the Jira APIs. So that was one of the first ones what we did use as a part of those.
Okay.
All kinds of